Now, unfortunately, with Dynamic Paint, you have to save your file before you can bake the cache. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click Bake now that I saved my file, and it bakes pretty quickly because Dynamic Paint isn't really real physics. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. It might as well be, and there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with it. For example, we don't just have to limit our canvas to a plane like this. In fact, I'm going to hide this. I'm going to go ahead and add in a mesh cube. Okay, I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to make sure that our sphere goes through our cube, which it does. Just make sure your sphere is big or smaller than the cube, and the cube has enough size to it. That looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and tab into edit mode on our cube, right click, subdivide a couple of times. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a dynamic paint canvas to this. Make sure you choose the surface type, which is going to be waves. And then if we press play, you'll notice that we have some dynamic paint effect on this. And the more subdivisions you add in edit mode, the greater the effect will be. Now look at that. How cool is that? So any object can become a dynamic paint surface. There's a couple of other things I want to go over. I'm going to bring our plane back to the scene here. As you can see, when our sphere runs along the plane, it has a really interesting effect. There's a couple of settings that we can also adjust here, such as time scale, speed, damping, spring, and smoothness. And these all kind of have their own methods to be adjusted by. Time scale is pretty important because if we raise this up to 3, back here, I'm going to delete the bake so we can just play this in real time. Notice how it's a completely different effect. But if I lower the time scale to something like 0.2, a very low value, notice how we get a slow recovery for this wave. We still get a similar effect, but it's much slower. I'm going to set the time scale back to 1, okay? And then for damping, this is actually going to be the wave damping factor, so how fast they kind of dissipate. Right now it's at 0.04. Let's set it to 0.5, and let's see what we get here. Again, look how slowly it disappears. This could be ideal for something like a memory foam effect if you wanted to, such as a hand pressing into a mattress made of memory foam. This could give you a pretty amazing effect such as that. Now, again, you guys can pretty much experiment with these however you want. There's also spring and smoothness. I'll go ahead and raise the spring up so you guys can see what that does. As you can see, that allows us to have sort of more of an elastic look. So if you're looking for something that looks like more like waves in a pond or something like that, that effect might work for you. And I actually think this looks really good. Now, one thing to consider, the more subdivisions you have, the higher quality it'll be. And just to show you, I'm going to subdivide this one more time. We're going to go ahead and play this back. Look at the detail level. Look at the ripples that we can get as we increase those subdivisions. It's pretty incredible. Now look at that. That is amazing. I'm going to subdivide it one more time, and I'm going to pray that Blender doesn't crash on me because I want you to see just how detailed you can get here. Look at that. Look at that. Now I'm going to disable the modifier for subdivision real quick. This is actually what it would look like, and then this is with our subdivision modifier. This looks fantastic. Another factor within our dynamic paint simulation is when we have our canvas selected, you can see this little checkbox that says open borders. Similar to our domain with fluid physics, there's an actual outline that you can't really see. And as you can see, if I play this back, you'll notice it more. Notice how the waves kind of crash into the edges and then they bounce back. If we wanted it to seem infinite, we could do so. All I'd have to do is check those open borders. And now the waves shouldn't crash into the walls, but they should rather dissipate outwards, as you can see.